Hi, I'm Jalan from Sophos TechVids, and today I'll be going through the new version of the Sophos Universal Reader and Finder tool, better known as Surf. Surf is a great tool developed by one of our own, Richard Pulis, which allows you to read both endpoint log files, SDUs, and Sophos firewall log files, CTRs, in a simple, intuitive way. Surf essentially extracts the data from the log files and provides you with a summary of the information you need. Today we'll be going through the new layout and features of Surf version 2.1. Now, there are some prerequisites to be aware of before getting started with Surf. While Surf can read all SDU files, Windows, Mac, and Linux, it can only read CTR files from supported versions of SFOS. The information gathered will also vary slightly from version to version due to changes in the OS. We'll touch on this again later in the video. And lastly, Surf can only be ran on Windows 10 and 11 right now, not Mac OS or Linux. If you haven't gotten your hands on Surf yet, click the link in the video description to download it. Now, let's go ahead and dive into the UI. So when you first launch Surf, you have your standard welcome page where you can open an SDU or CTR file. Now, I've got a few loaded up already, so let's go ahead and jump into an SDU first. So this is the dashboard for your file, which will vary a bit between SDU and CTR, which we'll see again later. In the middle, we have the control section where we just have basic information about the SDU, name, related case number, the database that Surf created for this SDU, the archive location where the SDU exists on the local machine, and the extracted location for the SDU. Below that, we have system information from the time that the SDU was actually gathered. Now, top right, we have our issues dashboard. So essentially, when Surf opens up an SDU or CTR, it runs through a set of rules that we've created to quickly detect common issues. And if found, I will actually provide you with a link to documentation or KB articles on how to resolve that issue. We'll have a further look at the rules section later in this video. So this SDU currently has no detections, but if we did have a rule detection, we would see it in the detections tab. We have the health section, which gives you a glance of the overall health of the device and things like update time and isolation state. Now, going on to the tabs on the left, we have tabs for different things that Surf gathers, like the detections tab. As previously mentioned, no detections on this device, but we'll see some later. The network tab, which gives you the network information of the device. The variables tab, which shows all variables and their paths. The applications tab, which shows all applications on the system, and you can actually filter for just Sophos applications, which is great. The policy tab is next, where you can see what policies are on or off for this device. The exclusions tab actually shows you any scanning exclusions that apply to this device, which is great to see. The services tab, where you can actually see all these services on the device. And just like the applications tab, you can actually filter for just Sophos services as well. Now below that, we have the search function of Surf. This is a great search function, which allows you to search for a term and add filters to your search to search inside of files. So not just search for specific files, but search for terms within all the files in the SDU, doing a simple and a regex search. So if I search for username, for example, we can see it found username in the WMIC file in this SDU. And if I open that up, you can actually see where it found it. Fantastic feature. Next, we have the comments tab, which actually lets you put in comments on the SDU, which can be referenced later. For example, if I put in, "This is a clean SDU," I can know when comparing devices. So every time I load this SDU, I'll see that comment. So our second last tab here is the settings tab. And this tab just has some info on the database and the extracted folder, along with toggles for debug logging and consume logging and so on. Those settings are advanced settings, so keep that in mind that it can add processing time. So don't toggle those unless specifically instructed to. Now, the last thing on this page is you can actually provide us with feedback on Surf, which is always appreciated. Lastly, we have the rules section. Now again, this SDU had no detections, but we can actually take a look at some of the rules here. Actually open the regex and filter for specific rules, like anything related to third-party software, for example. So now that we've had a look at the SDU side of things, let's take a look at the CTR files for SFOS. Immediately, we can see there are some differences in the dashboard for the CTR file. We do in fact have 4 issues on this device. We're gonna go into those a little bit later. On the left hand, you'll see now the first tab under dashboard is now health, which is our SFOS health check. This is a set of best practices check that we basically run against the CTR, which will score the device's configuration based on a risk level. Another great feature, if you have network access to the firewall from the device running Surf, you can actually put in the IP address and username and password to connect via SSH to run additional rules to update the score. Okay, now let's scroll down and take a look at some of the rules. You can see different icons per rule. These gray icons indicate that the rule could not actually be ran against this device, as it's an older version of SFOS. The green means it actually passed that check, and the yellow means there's a risk of some kind. In this case, because one firewall rule is not configured to log traffic. The last icon type here is this little connection icon, which indicates this setting can actually only be checked through SSH. So if we expand that warning that we get a link to product documentation for firewall rule configuration to learn about it. Now, if this is intentional by the administrator, you can actually click accept and put in a comment on why it's intentional, and then you'll see the icon change to the accepted by user icon. So now let's take a look at those detections we saw earlier by clicking the detections tab. So each detection will show you the title, the hash, the path to the log file where the detection actually happened, the actual line that detection was found on, and a knowledge base article number for how to actually resolve that issue. On the right-hand side, you can actually click the green check if you've resolved that issue already. You can dismiss it as not applicable with the gray, or completely remove it from your view using the red X. Moving down, we have the network tab on SFOS, which is obviously a lot more network interfaces than the SDU that we looked at. Okay, next we have policies. Now, this is not the full set of policies that would normally be in the UI. Surf just doesn't capture all of those. It's more the backend policies for things like advanced settings. Next, we have the services, the search, and the comments tab, just like on the SDU. And you can see that if we toggle between the files at the top, the comment that we left on the SDU, it doesn't apply to the CTR. And that wraps up the walkthrough for version 2.1 of Surf. I really hope you found this video useful. Let us know by giving us a thumbs up on TechVids and letting us know if we resolved your issue. Check out the documentation for this video in the video description. For further assistance, view and post questions on community.sophos.com and go to techvids.sophos.com for more great videos like this one. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe out there.